Those of you that know me best know that I like to read, and there's two books that I would recommend to players and parents just in the near future. The two books that I would recommend is The Little Book of Talent by Dan Coyle. There's actually a partner book with this called The Talent Code, and U.S. Soccer actually hired Dan Coyle back in the beginning stages of the Development Academy. Really just talked about really focused practice and how to get better. The second one is Discipline Equals Freedom by Jocko Willink. He's a former Navy SEAL, and he's intense. Listen to his podcast. It's the Jocko Willink podcast. Follow him on Instagram, and he always posts a picture of his watch where he wakes up at 4:30 every single day, and it's just insane how the guy is. But I'll start with Little Book of Talent. Actually, there's something cool in the back of the book where there's notes, and I used to have my players read this book, and then they'd have to write down the date, going all the way back to 2013. Just a quick excerpt of the book. Don't fall for the prodigy myth. It's tip number 11. One of the most unfortunate things I see when identifying youth players is the girl who is told over the years how great she is. By the time she's a high school freshman, she starts to believe it. By her senior year, she's fizzled out. Then there's her counterpart, a girl waiting in the wings, who quietly and with determination decides she's going to make something of herself. Invariably, this humble, hardworking girl is the one who becomes the real player. If you have early success, do your best to ignore the praise and keep pushing yourself to the edges of your ability where improvement happens. If you don't have early success, don't quit. Instead, treat your early efforts as experiments, not as verdicts. Remember, this is a marathon, not a sprint. I don't know how many times I've heard players or coaches praise the best player, and by the time 3 years pass, that player is no longer the best player. This one's good for coaches and teachers and mentors. Great teachers will often spend entire practice sessions on one seemingly small fundamental. For example, the way you grip a golf club or the way you pluck a single note on a guitar. This might seem strange, but it reflects their understanding of a vital reality. These fundamentals are the core of your skills. The more advanced you are, the more crucial they become. I agree with that wholeheartedly. I've said it in the past that you can't have advanced tactics, team tactics, without players with advanced technique. Wonder where I get all this stuff from. Tip number 22. Pay attention immediately after you make a mistake. Most of us are allergic to mistakes. When we make one, our very instinct urges us to look away, ignore it, and pretend it didn't happen. This is not good because as we've seen, mistakes are our guideposts for improvement. Brain scan studies reveal a vital instant. 0.25 seconds after a mistake is made, in which people do one of two things. They look hard at the mistake or they ignore it. People who pay deeper attention to an error learn significantly more than those who ignore it. That's a message to coaches, in my opinion. I think coaches allow mistakes to fester and to happen and develop bad habits over a course of time. And if you have the same coach over 3 years, how many bad habits have been created by players? And then when they get to a new coach or a higher level, those mistakes become major flaws and you struggle at the next level. So I would say to coaches, focus on their mistakes for sure. And the last one from this book, tip number 38, stop before you're exhausted. And I talk about this all the time about what happens when we're tired. Fatigue slows brains, it triggers errors, lessens concentration, and leads to shortcuts that create bad habits. It's no coincidence that most talent hotbeds put a premium on practicing when people are fresh, usually in the morning, if possible. When exhaustion creeps in, it's time to quit. That's why in Europe, most youth academies, they train in the morning and then they go to school and then they'll have training in the afternoon. I think this is one thing that sets America back. Look at training to game ratios. Sometimes it's 6, 7, 8, 9 to 1 in Europe, training to game. Over here, it's 3 to 1. And I've really learned this by studying some youth academies. We look at somebody that has 6 training sessions a week and we're like, oh, they're going 6 days. No, they're not. They actually go 2 times a day for 3 days a week. That means they get 4 days off. So they're fresher. They can get all their work done in 3 days, whereas we have to utilize something every single day. This is one of the things that holds us back. The second book, Discipline Equals Freedom, by, again, a Navy SEAL, or former Navy SEAL, Jocko, Willink. The back of the book. There is no shortcut. There is no hack. There's only one way. So get after it. Fear of failure. Fear of failure can keep you from taking the risk. It can leave you sitting there, paralyzed, and not taking action. And that is obviously bad, but I don't want you to overcome fear of failure. I want you to be afraid of failure. Fear of failure is good. Fear of failure will keep you up at night, planning, rehearsing, going over contingencies. Fear of failure will keep you training hard. Fear of failure will stop you from cutting corners. Fear of failure will keep you working, thinking, striving, and relentlessly trying to be more prepared for battle. So I want you to be afraid of failure. I fear failure. But more important, I want you to be horrified, terrified of sitting on the sidelines and doing nothing. That is what I want you to be afraid of. Waking up in 6 days, or 6 weeks, or 6 years, or 6 years, and being no closer to your goal. You have made no progress. That is the horror. That is the nightmare. That is what you really need to be afraid of, being stagnant. So get up and go. Take the risk, take the gamble, take the first step, take action, and don't let another day slip by. Staying motivated. Staying motivated. Don't worry about motivation. Motivation is fickle. It comes and goes. It is unreliable, and when you are counting on motivation to get your goals accomplished, you will likely fall short. So, don't expect to be motivated every day to get out there and make things happen. You won't be. Don't count on motivation. Count on discipline. You know what you have to do, so make yourself do it. You do that with discipline. Everyone wants some magic pill, some life hack that eliminates the need to do the work, but that does not exist. No, you have to do the work. You've got to hold the line. You've got to make it happen. So dig in, find the discipline, be the discipline, accomplish. That's it. 2 books that I highly recommend to players. I have tons of books, tons more. I always tell players that if you want to be the best, you need to watch the best. If you want to be the best player, you also need to learn about what it takes to be at the next level of something. Read more, educate yourself.